Episode 32. The Declaration. The assembly hall had never been this crowded. Dex stood in the antechamber adjacent to the main floor, watching through the observation window as representatives from 43 species found their seats. The hall was designed to accommodate 2,000 beings comfortably. Today, 5,000 had packed themselves into every available space, with another 20,000 watching via feeds throughout the station. He could see them all at once if he let his perception expand, 17 dimensions overlapping, probability streams branching from every choice being made in the room. Ambassador Reeves adjusting her notes. Representative Zhao's quantum signature flickering with controlled rage transmitted from light years away. War Master Vekthar's massive form radiating certainty like a star. Dex filtered it down to 3 dimensions, focused on the simple reality of his hands gripping the podium notes Elara had helped him write. "You don't have to use those," she said beside him. "You know what you want to say." "I know." He folded the paper anyway, tucked it into his pocket. "But Garrett taught me to always have a backup plan." Elara smiled, touched his face. "Are you ready?" "No." He caught her hand, held it. "But I'm going anyway." The door opened. Admiral Strand stepped through, his uniform perfectly pressed, despite the 72 hours he'd been awake coordinating security. "They're ready for you. War Master Vekthar has taken his seat in the observation gallery. The matriarch is." He paused. "Actually, I have no idea where the matriarch is. She does that. She's everywhere," Dex said quietly, seeing the shimmer of her presence across multiple dimensions. Watching from 17 angles at once, Strand nodded as if this made perfect sense. Perhaps it did now. The panel is assembled. Ambassador Reeves will moderate. Representative Zhao is transmitting from his flagship. They're still 8 hours from the Lumineth homeworld, but he insisted on participating remotely. Of course he did. Dex straightened his maintenance uniform. He'd refused to wear anything else, despite Strand's gentle suggestions about diplomatic attire. "Let's get this over with." Elara squeezed his hand once more, then stepped back. She'd be in the gallery with Garrett and Kreshtal, close enough to reach if he needed anchoring. The thought steadied him. Dex walked through the door into a wall of sound. The assembly hall erupted as he entered. Not quite applause, not quite protest, but a roar of noise that represented 5,000 beings trying to process the presence of someone who'd destroyed a 3-million-year-old artifact and lived. He kept his eyes forward, walked to the center podium, and waited. Ambassador Reeves raised her hand. The noise didn't stop. War Master Vekthar stood. The silence was immediate and absolute. 3.5 meters of Thrin warrior lord rising to full height carried weight that transcended species barriers. His ceremonial scars glowed faintly in the assembly lighting. "This human has blood honor," Vekthar said, his voice carrying to every corner without amplification. "Any who would dishonor him dishonors the Thrin Confederacy. Speak your truth, Seeker. We witness." He sat. The silence held. Dex looked up at the gallery, found Elara's face among thousands. She nodded. One choice at a time. "My name is Dex Holloway," he began. 6 weeks ago, I was a maintenance worker on level 47. I cleaned air filtration systems and fixed leaking pipes. I was good at my job because I paid attention to details other people missed." He paused. "Let that sink in. I didn't ask to destroy the crucible. I didn't ask to see across 17 dimensions or watch probability streams collapse every time someone makes a choice. I didn't ask to become someone that civilizations 3 million years old consider important." Representative Zhao's image flickered on the main display screen. "Then perhaps you should refuse the responsibility you claim you didn't ask for." "I thought about it," Dex said honestly. "I spent the last 47 hours thinking about it. I could refuse. Go back to maintenance work. Let someone else deal with the 11 artifacts still hidden across the galaxy." He looked directly at Zhao's image. "Let someone like you deal with them." The assembly stirred. Zhao's expression hardened. "I've read Admiral Chen's journals," Dex continued. "His sister Sarah gave them to me. I know exactly when he changed. 3 years ago, after the Korvathi incident. He stopped doubting himself, started believing only he could see the full picture, started being certain." Dex's hands gripped the podium. That certainty killed him. It killed 53 Cretharium civilians at Zeta 7. It nearly fed enough death to the crucible to wake it fully. Certainty is what the precursor tests break. It's what destroyed 17 civilizations before us. He turned to address the full assembly now, not just Zhao. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of what the other artifacts will do to me. I'm terrified I'll fail. I'm terrified I'll succeed and become something that isn't human anymore. I'm terrified that my fear isn't enough to protect me. The honesty hung in the air like a physical presence. But I'm more terrified of what happens if someone who's certain takes this role. Someone who thinks they can control precursor technology. Someone who approaches ancient tests designed to break certainty with absolute confidence in their own righteousness. Zhao leaned forward on the screen. You're claiming I'm unfit because I have confidence? Because I believe humanity deserves a strong representative? I'm saying you're unfit because you think you deserve it, Dex said quietly. The precursors didn't leave these artifacts as tools. They left them as questions, tests, ways to understand consciousness itself. You can't answer questions if you already know all the answers. Ambassador Krixtal, the Vexian representative, spoke up. Her forearms gestured in calculation. The human makes logical argument, but logic also suggests democratic process for selecting representative. Why should council choose unilaterally? Because the council remembers, said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Essence of dawn light materialized in the center of the assembly hall, her crystalline form refracting light across 17 dimensions. Half the assembly gasped. The other half, the older species, bowed their heads in respect. We remember 17 civilizations, the matriarch continued. 17 times we watched beings approach the crucible with certainty, with plans, with democratic mandates and popular support and absolute conviction in their righteousness. Her form pulsed. 17 times we watched them die screaming as the crucible showed them what certainty truly costs. 17 times we mourned what might have been if they had approached with doubt instead of conviction. She turned to Dex, though her presence encompassed the entire hall. This human destroyed the crucible not because he was certain he could, but because he was terrified of what would happen if he didn't try. He broke 3 million years of pattern not through strength, but through fear that became courage. The matriarch's attention shifted to Zhao's image. You speak of democratic process, Representative Zhao. But the precursors left no democracy in their tests. They left mirrors. They left questions. They left artifacts that reflect consciousness back on itself, amplified and purified until only truth remains. Her voice softened, became almost gentle. If you truly believe you are the better choice, then approach the compass of compassion. Let it show you every consequence of every choice across all possible futures. Face what that knowledge does to certainty. Then we will speak of democratic selection. Zhao's face went carefully blank. I would need time to prepare, to study the artifact's nature. The artifacts cannot be studied, the matriarch said, only experienced. And experience requires doubt, Representative. It requires the willingness to be changed by what you learn. She turned back to the assembly. The Council of Ascended Species formally recognizes Dex Holloway as Seeker. He will find the remaining 11 artifacts. He will face their tests. He will learn what they teach or die trying. And we will watch with hope that humanity succeeds where 17 others failed. Silence. Then War Master Vekthar stood again. The Thrin Confederacy pledges blood honor protection. The Seeker's quest is sacred. Any who would interfere answers to us. The Cretharium spokesperson released pheromones that the translation systems rendered as, the swarm remembers the builders who ascended. We honor their test. We protect their chosen. Ambassador Reeves looked at Dex. Do you accept this role? Understanding that it may take years? That it will transform you? That you may never return to the life you knew? Dex thought of maintenance tunnels and air filtration systems, of 6 years spent invisible, of Garrett's weathered hands and practical wisdom, of the simple satisfaction of fixing what was broken. He thought of Elara's face in the gallery, watching him with fierce love and fiercer trust. He thought of Admiral Chen's journals and the moment certainty took hold. I accept, Dex said, not because I want to, not because I'm certain I can succeed, but because someone has to try, and I'm the one who's already been changed. I might as well give that change meaning. He paused, then added, But I'm not doing this alone. Dr. Elara Voss comes with me. Admiral Strand provides military support and coordination. War poet Kreshtal serves as my guard and guide to species I don't understand. And anyone else who wants to help is welcome, as long as they understand we're looking for questions, not answers. Ambassador Reeves nodded slowly. The inquiry recognizes your acceptance. The Council will provide resources and protection for your quest. Representative Zhao, do you wish to challenge this decision? On the screen, Zhao's face was a study in controlled fury. I reserve the right to petition the Council directly when I arrive at the Lumineth homeworld. You may petition, the matriarch said. But the choice is made. The pattern is set. The seeker walks his path. Zhao's image cut out. Ambassador Reeves looked at the assembly. Unless there are further objections, this inquiry is concluded. Dex Holloway is formally recognized as humanity's seeker and representative to the Council of Ascended Species. This session is adjourned. The assembly erupted again, but this time the sound was different. Not protest or confusion, but something closer to awe, or fear, or both. Dex stood at the podium, filtering his perception down to 3 dimensions, focusing on the simple reality of his hands and his breathing and the weight of what he'd just accepted. Garrett appeared at his elbow, seemingly from nowhere. Good speech, kid. Honest. That's what matters. I'm terrified, Dex admitted. Good, Garrett said. Fear keeps you from making stupid mistakes. Now come on. Elara's waiting, and you've got about 500 diplomats who want to shake your hand or kill you. Probably both. Dex let Garrett guide him through the crowd, Kreshtal clearing a path with his sheer presence. He caught glimpses of faces, some approving, some hostile, most simply uncertain. He saw Sarah Chen in the crowd, nodding with something like peace on her face. Elara met him at the gallery entrance, wrapped her arms around him without words. 1 hour as the official seeker, she murmured. How does it feel? Like I just volunteered to walk through fire, Dex said honestly, repeatedly, for years. Good thing you're not doing it alone. She pulled back, looked at him seriously. We need to talk about next steps. The matriarch wants to brief us on the compass of compassion. That's the closest artifact, apparently. 3 weeks travel. 3 weeks, Dex repeated. And then? And then you face a test that shows you every consequence of every choice across all possible futures. Elara's voice was steady, but her eyes showed her fear. The matriarch says it breaks most people within hours. They can't handle seeing that much possibility, that much responsibility. Dex thought about the 17 dimensions he could already see. The probability streams branching and collapsing with every choice. Maybe I'm already broken, he said quietly. Maybe that's why I can do this. Or maybe, Admiral Strand said, appearing beside them with Garrett and Kreshtal, you're exactly whole enough to survive being broken further. The precursors didn't design these tests to be passed by the perfect. They designed them to be passed by the honest. Dex nodded slowly. So what now? Now, Strand said, you have 24 hours before departure. The matriarch is preparing a ship. Kreshtal's honor guard is assembling. I'm coordinating supply lines and backup support across 17 systems. And you, Elara said, taking Dex's hand, are going to sleep, eat, spend time being human before we leave to face something designed to test the limits of what consciousness can endure. Dex looked at his found family. Elara, Garrett, Strand, Kreshtal, people who'd chosen to stand with him not because they had to, but because they believed in what he was trying to do. Thank you, he said simply. Garrett snorted. Don't thank us yet, kid. Thank us when you come back still yourself. That's the real test. Not whether you can face these artifacts, but whether you can face them and still remember who you were. They walked together through the station corridors, past maintenance drones and military personnel and alien ambassadors, all trying to process what they'd witnessed. Dex filtered his perception down to 3 dimensions, focused on the simple reality of putting one foot in front of the other. One choice at a time. It would have to be enough. But as they reached his quarters and the others dispersed to handle preparations, Dex stood at the viewport with Elara and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the compass of compassion waited. And beyond it, 10 more artifacts, 10 more tests, 10 more chances to break or grow or transform into something he couldn't yet imagine. The precursors watched from 17 dimensions. curious to see what their failed test would teach the species that broke their pattern. And Representative Zhao's ship continued toward the Lumineth homeworld, carrying a man who believed he deserved power because he was certain of his own righteousness. Dex felt the probability streams branching, saw the futures collapsing and expanding with every heartbeat. He saw versions where he succeeded, versions where he failed, versions where he became something transcendent, and versions where he simply ceased to exist. But mostly, he saw Elara's face reflected in the viewport glass, her expression fierce and loving and terrified and determined all at once. 3 weeks, she said quietly. Then the compass. 3 weeks, Dex agreed. They stood together, watching the stars, knowing that in 72 hours they'd leave everything familiar behind to chase questions across the galaxy. The adventure was just beginning, and somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, the precursors waited to see if humanity's seeker could succeed where 17 civilizations had failed. Not through certainty or strength, but through the simple courage to remain afraid while moving forward anyway.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.